So, Martin, I'm going to start with you. Why is the current meta at Manchester City working? Why is everything A-OK? Why do I need to not worry about the CFG transfer policy when it comes to younger players?
CFG for me is used for one reason and one reason only, and that is for FFP way around, if I'm going to be totally honest. I don't find it for any other reason, because the only player who's come out probably over the last, predominantly straight into the first team, is Phil Foden. So for me, straight out of the block, it's just that it is there for FFP to make us the money, very much like which I know people will tear apart later on. It is the Chelsea model, or used to be the Chelsea model. Now, obviously, we've gone down that road, because the facts, and there's only Phil Foden. We've dabbled with players in and out. Tommy Doyle. We've had Maffio through the years, even Angelino, because even the Angelino deal, we brought him in for £5 million on I think from what I remember, I'm sure we had a buyback clause on him to get him in for that cheap from PSV, and we've sold him on for what, 15 million. So it was clearly a money-making asset. So the CFA is doing its job from Manchester City's eyes as a club, but it's not going to be there unless there is something very special, like a Phil Foden coming through. And as we've all seen with Phil Foden, that took about 4 years for Phil Foden to get any decent game time.
So, like Martin said, at the moment we've only had one prospect come through, and that's been Phil Foden. What I can say is that we have got a number of players through the EDS who are an amazing talent. And I think some of these players can get into the first team. Romeo Lavo, who is a Belgium international, he's been in the EDS. We signed him last summer. He did amazing performances. The management team and the trainers that he was playing under are rating him very highly. The Belgium national team are looking to bring him into their senior team because they rate him that highly. So we have got very, very decent young talent. The problem that we've got is that we've got so many already amazing players in the first team that it's where do you fit them in?
Well, you can see where do you fit them in, but breaking news, we just signed Jack Grealish.
Well, yeah, exactly.
So
again, we can argue that, can't we, and say, well, where the hell's Grealish going to play? Because, his position is taken up by Sterling, Phil Foden, Bernardo Silva, Riyad Mahrez, Kevin De Bruyne, Ilkay Gundogan. I mean, the list goes on, doesn't it? So it is difficult to kind of say where these players, these EDS academy players, can actually get a chance and get in. Now, for me, one of the flaws that we've seen from Pep is that he doesn't put youth into the lower competitions, like, say, the Carabao Cup in the first early stages, the FA Cup the first stages. And for me, that's where we normally see some of the youth players come in, isn't it? And over the last few seasons since Pep's come in, we've barely seen them. Some might argue and say, well, last season, COVID, we didn't have as many games as in, FA Cup replays and stuff like that. So Pep felt he had to play the best players. But still, we're seeing the likes of Chelsea, Man United bring in their youth and flourish. We look at Mason Mount at Chelsea. So it's difficult. And I watch the EDS. I've seen some of the great talent we've got, and I do want to see a pathway for these players to come through.
I think I'd say I've got two very conflicted views on it. Ever since I was a kid, I remember Paul Molden. I thought after his 289 goals for Bolton Boys, he was going to be the greatest striker the world had ever seen. I remember watching Jason Beckford before he played for the first team. So I've always, and then great players who came through like Lake. So they are our favourite players, and as fans, there's nothing more we want to see than that. So there's part of me that wants to see Cole Palmer named in our team to start the Premier League season, and see another lad, I think he's from Wythenshawe, see another lad come through and live the dream. But on the flip side to that, when I look at it pragmatically, City are looking for ways to get around the rules that UEFA and the Premier League have put in place to try and dampen down City and Chelsea's ability to spend. And that is meaning that we are using the CFG and the academy to make ourselves, 50 million in transfer fees every summer so that we can spend money. And you'll see this summer we will have sold about 80 million of players, most of whom we will have never seen kick a ball for City, and some of whom will barely have even stepped foot in the academy. And that funds the business. The other side to it is, and I think about the players in the cup games, is that we're trying to sign or build 2 good players in every squad position. And the problem is now, if we play a cup game on a Wednesday, we've got players like Ferran Torres and Raheem Sterling and Gabriel Jesus and Fernandinho and, potentially Cancelo and Ake and Laporte, who all need first team football. And so we've already got 7 or 8 players, if we have no injuries, who are there needing football. And, it's almost impossible to leave them out if they need games to bring the youth players through. So we've almost got a model where if we don't have injuries in a season, we have a problem, not only for bringing youth through, but for actually keeping the first team happy. My head sees the pragmatic reason it doesn't happen, but my heart wants to see the next kids come through so that there's 3 or 4 Phil Fodens in the team from, the northwest of England playing for City, potentially playing for England and really doing the business.
Ethically, like for example, I'll give you an example of what we've just done at City, okay? We've let Taylor Howard-Bellis, a player that I've seen play many times for the academy and for the first team in various matches, who is clearly good enough to be a rotation player in the first team squad, to play 10 games a season, okay? That decision was made earlier this month that he would go to Anderlecht for a season-long loan. Now, I was informed that another team came in for Taylor Howard-Bellis, and that team was Brentford. Now, Brentford has just been promoted for the Premier League, so Taylor Howard-Bellis at Brentford or Taylor Howard-Bellis at Anderlecht. And what you've got to ask yourself is, which is more beneficial for his career long-term, even if he isn't going to end up playing for the Manchester City first team. Now, to anybody, the answer should be Brentford. Going to Anderlecht is just doing a former player a favour. I think we can all agree on that. Going to Brentford and he gets 10, 15, 20, 25 games in the Premier League, that experience is invaluable. And he is good enough. Now, this is my argument about players like Nathan Ake. You brought up Cancelo and other such players and all the rest of it. Why are we signing these auxiliary players for 50, 60, 70 million pounds? That, yes, they have a massive contribution over the course of a league season, but is it really that impossible to find that from our youth? Are you telling me that 50 million pounds spent on Nathan Ake, we wouldn't have been better off taking a chance on Taylor Howard-Bellis being promoted to the first team instead? What games last season, for example, that Nathan Ake played in, would Taylor Howard-Bellis have lost us?
Well, the thing is with Nathan Ake, he was injured quite a lot last season, so it's kind of a non-starter, really. We don't know. We'll see how many games he plays this season, really.
My point sort of served itself, really. My point was that, the results wouldn't have been any different if it was Ake or Howard-Bellis in those games. But there would have been a wider difference, which is an academy graduate would have got first team football for our team compared to a £50 million signing. Alan, are you there? I want to hear your thoughts on the academy situation, please.
Well, I'm as frustrated as you, Rob, to be honest with you. I'd love to see, the Howard-Bellises, the Mackeys and etc. come into the first team and play games. But the problem is that the club now is that with Pep being, he's not really given the chance to say, "Oh, you can have an off season and just play some of the kids." The pressure of winning trophies now is huge. And the second point, you hit the nail on the head with Rob, that the CFG model now is to make money, to cover FFP, and we can argue about the Chelsea thing being forced into it. The fact that Chelsea now are in the first after Frank Lampard put them in because he was forced to do it, has paid dividends for them, and they're going to be our major competitors this year. If not, they are the favourites to win the Premier League. And I'm envious. I'm not envious. I'm jealous that we don't take the same bullet and take a year off, because they have to take a year off from competing to win trophies. Because if you're looking at Chelsea, when they brought the players in first year, they finished, I think it was 7th or 8th under Lampard. And also they got to 4th, beg your pardon, and did really well. And then they're not going to win trophies, though. And United are bringing youth players in now. How many trophies has United won in the last 10 years?
I understand that the pressure is incredibly high. I understand that we have to win trophies to continue with our current model. But what I'm trying to suggest is that our current model could easily be supplemented by incorporating youth and spending less money. The only reason why there's such a demand on our club to win so many trophies is because the season we stop winning trophies, or the pattern emerges that we stop winning trophies, then that's when the money comes into account and we have to say, right, we're not balancing the books anymore. But if we stopped spending £50 million on auxiliary players and promoted youth players anyway, I mean, look, yes, you're right. Chelsea did have to take a gamble. Chelsea took a gamble and it got them 7th from Frank Lampard's sack. But later on, they won the Champions League. Look at Leicester City. Leicester City are consistently a top 4, top 6 team. Yeah. They've promoted countless numbers of youth. They've even taken our youth in players like Kelechi Iheanacho, who's gone on to be a revelation for Leicester. Can I just say, right, one of my favourite periods at Manchester City was the mid-2000s onwards, when we started seeing players like Micah Richards coming through, Joey Barton coming through, Stephen Ireland coming through, Jordan coming through. There was Joe Hart coming through, Kasper Schmeichel coming through. There were so many. I mean, Kasper Schmeichel's gone on to win a Premier League and an FA Cup, right? These players are 1 in 10 of them, 1 in 5 of them, 1 in 10 of them are good enough. But the problem is, they'll never be good enough in a City shirt in our current system. I was so excited when this CFG thing got announced. You know what? Maybe I'll be eating my words in 5 years' time. Maybe we will have 10 Mancunians or 10 academy graduates playing for the first team. But it just does not seem like that's the road that we're going down at all.
I'm not sure that many others of the players we've sold, the Diaz's, the Lopez's, the Unals, etc., have shown anything elsewhere to show that they would have made it at City in the first team. So, maybe there's other problems. Maybe we're not producing players in the right way to go into the first teams and make their long-term careers.
I've got to say, I think that's a fair point. Because if you look at the team we've got now, I mean, even speak to yourself, Stones and Diaz are our back two, and they're keeping a world-class defender like Laporte out of the team. So if you're keeping a world-class player like Laporte out, who is stamping his feet, bad looks things, because he's not happy, how is someone like a Taylor Howard-Bellis ever going to get in ahead of that when he's not only got Laporte...
But that's the thing, that's not the comparison I'm drawing. That's not the comparison I'm drawing. The comparison I'm drawing, Martin, is Ake versus Taylor Howard-Bellis.
Yes.
No, we spent £50 million on Nathan Ake. Nathan Ake might actually turn out to be a quality centre-half. And you know what? I might eat my words and we might sell him for 150 million. Or he'll be a first-choice centre-half for City in 2 or 3 years' time. But the point is, right now, how would we ever know versus Taylor Howard-Bellis if Taylor Howard-Bellis is shown the door on the back of a £50 million acquisition? That's the point.
I think at the end of the day, we're looking at the current picture, and the current picture is Pep Guardiola is under immense pressure from the owners to win as many trophies as he can. And Pep has only got 2 seasons left, unless he signs an extension in those 2 years. But from what we can tell of Pep's kind of thinking, he's going for Harry Kane by the looks of it, because he wants to win the Champions League. He wants to do it within the 2 years that he's got left. Because he's signing someone that is proven. So my point is that I think after those 2 years, we might start seeing youth players come in, because the next manager comes in may not have that kind of money to spend. So he may have to look at the academy.
But I think Ozzy's got a really good point there, because if you remember it, when we got taken over in 2008, we had to majorly play catch up. Now, unfortunately, and this is what I was about, we kind of made a rod for our own back a little bit in this predicament, because we had to play 10 years of catch up so quickly, and we had to spend. And if you look at the very beginning, we were spending stupid amounts of money on better players than what we had, but on players that weren't really going to take us where we wanted to go. And I'm talking about your Adebayors, your Craig Bellamy's, great players. They weren't title Champions League winning players to where we're at now. So what
was at the club at the time. Do you really think I'm a believer in Daniel Sturridge? I always thought he was good enough.
But the thing was
I was a believer in Michael Richards.
Going to take you on to the next level, because he didn't take Liverpool to the next level.
No, it didn't, Martin. But I'm sorry, but when we spent all of that ridiculous fortune in that time, what we actually needed was a manager to sort of put it all together more than we needed the players at that time. But we didn't. We got Mark Hughes, and he was allowed to spunk money. And then we got Mancini, and he was allowed to spunk money. I love Mancini, but neither of them, even Mark Hughes, was never really given limitations by the club.
Well, I don't think any of the crop that we've got in the youth team, as much as they're talented, they are very talented, will make it at Man City. I think every single one of them will be gone, and that includes Liam Delap and McAtee. I do not think any of them have a long-term future at City. And that's not because they're not good, because they are good. I just don't think the model at City is sustainable for them to get a chance. They've got too many players, like Martin said, in front of them that need games. So if I was a McAtee right now, I'll be talking to my agent saying, can you get me out of here, and do what Sancho did. And Sancho should have taught us a lesson. Even though he handled it in the wrong way, he still taught us a lesson that we can't keep doing this. And they've gone out in this transfer window and they've spent 100 million on Grealish, and we might be spending over 100 million on Kane. And if the ice cream van comes around the corner and we go and get really Leo Messi today, then we're just wasting our time. Really are wasting our time.
Can I just throw in a different perspective? I know I mentioned this to you privately, Rob. I think Howard Bellis is a great example, because me and Rob went and watched him, I think, make his debut against Preston in the Carabao Cup, as I remember. And it was him and Garcia. And I always remember turning to Rob and saying,
Garcia looked like the guy who couldn't give a fuck.
Yeah, everyone was raving about Garcia, that he was this next amazing thing. And me and Rob we both said together, you're looking at the wrong guy. Howard Bellis is the guy that you need to be looking at here, quietly. But the thing is what I know, totally agree with Rob, he should have gone to Brentford, really. I think we've done an ex-player a favour here by the Anderlecht thing. But we don't know what effect that Blackburn deal had on Howard Bellis. We don't know if getting first team football every single week, Howard Bellis, we don't know. We're surmising here. Pep might have said, Taylor, you're going to get 4 or 5 games in the Carabao Cup. Howard Bellis might have said, yeah, but if I can go somewhere else and play 35 games, it might not be to your level. And it might not be. It's the same with Liam Delap. There's rumours coming out, and we can only go off rumours and assumptions and everything else because we don't know. Apparently, Pep wants to keep Liam Delap at the club.
Well, what about the Stoke thing that's going on then?
Yeah, but Liam Delap is the one pushing to go to Stoke. It's not Pep pushing for Delap out the door.
Because he wants games. Can I just say about your Taylor Howard Bellis argument?
At Stoke, where he'll get 3 games at Sarah.
What you're saying about Taylor Howard Bellis might be reasonable, but I'll just pose this to you, okay? Let's say Taylor Howard Bellis goes to Brentford on the proviso that he gets 10 starts a season. If he's fucking world class, or if he's anywhere near as good as I believe he is, that figure will get bumped up anyway. He will end up playing 30 games a season. So yes, he might be going to Anderlecht, where he's got the guaranteed promise of 35, 36 games, but it's 35, 36 games at the quality of Division 1, compared to 10 games at Brentford and suck it and see. Because he will be good enough at Brentford, and a manager's not exactly going to say, well, I only said 10 games and you've had that 10 games, so sit the rest of the season on the bench, son. Things will get renegotiated and he'll end up playing more games because he's good enough.
What happens if City have agreed with Company and they've said you can have him, but we need you to do X, Y, and Z? We need one of our coaches to go over and make sure he's doing X, Y, and Z, and they have complete cooperation with Anderlecht to do something like that. Whereas at Brentford, he's being signed potentially as the third centre-back and playing a slightly different style of football. And, the coaches at City believe that in Anderlecht he will get more games and that those games will be suited to the way he plays. I mean,
that's a valid point. That's a valid point if it's true.
I know when you want to come to Aussie, what I did was, before we came on, I did get a list of a lot of the players that are on loan at the moment from Manchester City. Some of these were bought for 8, 9, 10 million pounds. So you've got Filip Stefanovic, who are now Man United, and a couple of others were really after they pushed for this guy. He's a Serbian winger, and he's on loan at Heerenveen till 2023. You've got, you said about Muric, didn't you, Rob? He's currently on loan now with Adana Demirspor over in, I think it's in Turkey at the moment. You've got, I know some of you will have heard of this guy, Luka Ilic, another big youngster who a lot of teams were after and had the eye on, 22 years old. And he's over at 20 at the moment for a year. Marlos Moreno, another one. He's on loan at KV Kornajic in the Belgian league. So there are a lot of our players are out on loan. Pedro Porro, who Ozzy knows a lot about, is currently on loan over at, is it Sporting Lisbon?
Yeah.
Martin, he's out on loan there now.
Martin, the CFG model is they bring these players on for cheap. Okay, they buy them for cheap. All right, bang them out on loan for 2-3 years, and then they sell them to either the club they're at on loan or to another club for extra money on top. So they're making profits on every single one. It's not just a farm out and then bring them back. They're looking. There's a couple of Aussie lads that they brought over from Melbourne City. One was farmed out to Huddersfield and then went to Brighton. Moy, right? They made a handsome £12 million profit on him for bringing him over for 2 million and then selling him on, which they did. So they made money on him. They made money on. What was the other guy? Was it Asartic, a young lad who went to Celtic? He did his ACL. Unfortunately, he's done his ACL. I've seen him play, and he's a cracker. And they're bringing players over, buying teams from clubs from South America for 2 or 3 million because the clubs in South America haven't got any money. They bring them over and then they farm them out on loan to sell. It's a profit machine. That's what they're doing. That is the model that they're using. The lads at the CFG is different. The lads at the CFG in the EDS, they make the mind up pretty quickly if they're going to make it into City's first team. Which, unless you're absolutely exceptional, you ain't getting in. You are not getting in.
Aussie, is the Jimmy Grimble dream dead?
Yes.
I think currently, yeah. I think we have to be honest. We're not going to see a lot of these youth players come through in the next couple of seasons, unless again they show extraordinary talent, like Phil Foden did. I do think there is the possibility of because some of these players that we have got are exceptional. I mean, like I said with Lavia, the Belgian international. He, for me, I think he could come in, learn under Fernandinho, Rodri, and then when Fernandinho leaves, because I think he will leave, he can't go on forever. I think, when he leaves next summer, I think he's someone who could come could be, you know, the second choice because he's that talented. So, but it's just giving these players a chance. But as Alan said before, you know, and as I said before, some of these players need to go out on loan because they're wasted, absolutely wasted. They, as Alan said, they need to play against men. You know, they need to be put in proper competition. You know, go to other teams that are, you know, in the lower half of the Premier League or the Championship. I think the Championship is, you know, is underrated, you know, because it's a hard league. You know, it's hard to get out of, and then it's hard even when you do get out of to stay, you know, not to go back down. So for me, I think some of these players can go there and they could flourish. See if they do well enough. If they do, they come back to City and hopefully get into the first team.
They are all at City to live the dream of making it to the City first team. And sometimes, Martin, when you leave that bubble, your career stagnates and you go nowhere and you tread water.
But Rob, that can be said for any
of course it can.
Players.
Of course it can.
No matter who they play for.
Of course it can, but the prestige of coming to City Academy, with all the money spent on City Academy, makes it worse and it makes the fall even harder, in my opinion.
I will back that up because I know someone who has actually gone through that. His grandmother worked at our workplace and she said he got released to Wolves and it destroyed him. And you know what? He now loves Wolves. I won't mention the name, but he was only 13 at the time, got released by City and he thought he was doing well. Do you know the big problem at the moment? And this is only what she said to me, and I won't mention names, but she used to work at our place, is some of these kids at 15 or 16 are walking around with a $5,000 Rolex on their wrist.
Oh, yeah, no.
So are they learning that the trouble, like I said, at 16, some of these kids think they're made already. And like Rob just said, sometimes that fall from grace is damn hard because they're not going to get paid at Wolves what they got paid at City. Some of these kids are on $5,000 a week. Some of them players are not even on that in the lower leagues, in League One and League Two. So, yes, but if I'm going to be honest, I'm with Ozzy on this and Rich. I think there needs to be a whole restructure of academies in the whole of football in this country. And I think they should. I thought at the time there was a rule where you had to have so many homegrown, but like every rule in this league, you find a way around it.
We look at Nathan Ake
now. Nathan Ake is a way around the homegrown. It is though, isn't it, Ozza? They've now found a loophole on a rule that they were supposed to get youngsters through.
Yeah.
And they found a loophole
Nathan Ake's homegrown, but not club trained. I think that's the difference.
No, he is.
Well,
club
the paperwork needs ripping up, doesn't it? The paperwork needs ripping up. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
and the reason why I say it's ridiculous is because it will damage careers. It will damage careers, and it will damage young men.
No, I don't disagree. I want to see youth players given a chance. I want to see those places. So I'm not disagreeing on that. I'm just saying that it's unfortunately they're driving Mercedes because if they're not driving Mercedes at City, they'll be driving a Lamborghini at Liverpool. Because if we've got a great young talent, we've got to lock them in, and that's done by money. And I don't think it helps a lot of the players. I don't think it's a good thing for the world, but I just don't see any other way around it other than letting our most valuable young players go for nothing.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? At the end of the day, we've got to attract them. But the current model is not like it used to be when they were at the Platt Lane, the youngsters, where you got the Ian Brightwells, the David Whites, the Paul Lakes, etc., the Stevie Redmonds. When City Academy, then everyone knew if you went to City Academy, you'd probably find your way into the first team if you were any good. Now it's virtually impossible with the squad that we have, and it would need, like I say, a strong change of direction by the people at the top, right down to the management and the coaches, to say, all right, we're going to have a few years, I won't say in the wilderness, but in the top six, and we're going to produce our young players. And it would needs to be announced that that's what's happening. The fact is, would all the fans accept that? A lot would. The old legacy fans, as we hate to be called, would love that. But the newer generation, the younger ones coming through, would start moaning because a lot of them play FIFA play FIFA football, don't they? They want to have all these big stars coming.
Yeah.
Well, so you're getting pressure from all directions.
Going on to kind of the points that have already been made, I do agree with what Richard said and has said, that if we don't give our youth a chance, if we don't put them on decent loans to the Championship or wherever, then we're just going to keep losing these players like we do the likes of Sancho. But what I will say is we have got some extraordinary talent in our academies, and these players are worth pushing through to the first team. And I hope it does change. I think, like Rich said, and Alan said, it probably won't unless we have a big shake-up. And I think that only shake-up will be is when Pep leaves. And how the future of the club goes, what we win in the next couple of seasons.
Agree with what a lot of people are saying. I think the big thing is we have to be probably a little bit more patient as fans as well. I think as fans, we're all in this. Rob, you said it's emotional business for us. But as Ozzy says, it's just a business for other people. There's no emotion behind it, with some people in charge. I think we've got to give it a chance. I will look at it where we are in 10 years with the academy, because I don't think a model that keeps spending can continue, as we've now seen in the La Liga situation, because wages will only get bigger, transfer fees will only get bigger. I remember 2 weeks ago saying City will never spend 100 million. We'll never do it.
Today,
we'll be capped at 65, and today we've gone and done it, and it looks like we're going to beat that again in one transfer window. So I think things have changed. Maybe it's a bit more difficult for us legacy customers to swallow it a bit more than some of the youngsters, and I'm not going to apologise for that. That's just the way we were brought up. We know the game's different, but I do think the academy will reap the awards. Again, it's a very similar thing. City will eventually probably get to the Man United level, just might not be in our lifetime. Or we might be a lot, and that's just the way it is.
Okay, so Jason asks, I might need some clarification on this from you, Jason. Are the rules starting to get ridiculous, or can you see the benefits? So yeah, you're going to have to give a bit of clarification on that, if you don't mind, please, Jason. Just type a little bit more in the chat, buddy. Kiam says, City do not have the fan base. We'll come back to that one, because I think Kiam's found the happy drugs. We need to subsidise our revenue by selling youth players. So that's a statement. We need to subsidise our revenue by selling youth players. Success comes first before the emotion in sport. Yeah, and we've all we've said that tonight between the lot of us. We accept that that's the state of play. Obviously, because we are emotional, we're not. That is a bitter pill to swallow. But yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. You are wrong about the fan base thing, though.
I think he means global fan base, Rob.
Yeah, potentially the global fan base, absolutely. But I mean,
that is starting to change. Let's be honest.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, I mean, and these kids that you've mentioned that are coming over from Brazil, if they really are wonder kids, that'll do something to our global fan base.
You're gonna hate this, but I still think we're 20, 30 years behind the other two down the.
Without a doubt, Martin, because football is very fickle. People are already starting to forget the early 90s. People are already starting to forget who Arsenal are. Let's be honest. Can Messi be counted as a homegrown talent?
Can we just say, let's get off the Messi train. No one's on it. We're off the tracks. Ain't happening. Move on.
All right. Okay. Right.
Thank God.
Right. Okay. Jason's finally come up with a youth-related question. What would you like to? What would you change about all of these youths being paid so much money? Now that's obviously speculation. We don't actually know how much money they're getting, but you can sort of surmise when they are wearing Rolexes and driving Ferraris. What would you change about how it's paid to them? Well, obviously that's a bigger issue, because you look at someone like Britney Spears, who made a fortune when she was a kid, and her dad won't give her any of her money. So,
I think there's one very good rule. It probably wouldn't meet the law, but I think you have contracts where if they're going to earn a lot of money at 17, 18, 19, it's released over a 10, 20-year period. So you're actually securing their financial future. You're paying them the amount that they would get, but you're doing it over a longer time, so that if they don't make it in the game, they've got something to fall back on.
Parachute.
So that you are rewarding them and keeping them, and you are incentivizing them to actually get better and get onto a more professional contract.
Agreed.
But which is probably allowed, but you probably couldn't force everyone to do it.
You couldn't force everyone to do it, and some clubs probably couldn't afford to do it either. Some clubs.
But if the Premier League brought in a rule like that,
yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you, Rich.
To help those kids as well that don't make it, which is most of them.
Kiam said, "Do you think City should play a full youth team in the Carabao Cup?"
Yes, love it, and that's one rule I'd make. I'd make the whole Carabao Cup just youth.
I agree, but you're gonna have a lot of fucking players at City that are pissed off. Zach Steffen, Cancelo, Nathan Ake, Ferran Torres, Gabriel Jesus. Don't forget, this is the problem that City have, Kiam. You can look at it as a good problem and a bad problem, but we have 25 first-team players.
Well, I think that goes through the whole Premier League. You're going to get it everywhere.
Whoa, we're the only one that has got a team that could finish first and second in the Premier League, Martin.
Yeah.
So, yes, Kiam, we'd like to see something like that, but ain't going to fucking happen, ever, because we got too many players. We got too many first-teamers on our books.
I'm not fully down with this.
We're not quite like we were in the 90s. In the 90s, we had about 70 players on the books, and we didn't know half of them were registered to us.
Nigel Clough on God knows how much.
Yeah, and they certainly weren't first-team players. Do you think that there should be a rule?
The best one could only manage 22nd, yeah.
Do you think that there should be a rule that states every club should play at least 5 or 10 youth super? See, I like this percentage rule, me. I like this percentage rule. So let's say that arbitrarily you've got to have a minimum of 6, between 6 and 8, I prefer 8 because obviously that's more, youth team players in your first team squad. If you have to extend the squad size to 30, so be it. But then there'll be lots of arguments around that as well.
Yeah, but what they do is just stick them on the bench with 3 minutes to go and just bring them on.
That's fine. So be it. So fucking be it.
Still game time.
Still game time. And I'd say that that's percentage based. I would say that 20% of your season must be played by those players, by those academy players.
You know yourself, there's nothing like you can go to like in EDS games and you can play in front of 1,000 people. When you get in front of 60, 70,000 people,
So the Etihad.
Ball game. Whole different ball game.
Now if you're at the Etihad, you're lucky to...
We've got more people watching the EDS than we have in the main stadium. I think people don't know where the main stadium is. It must be hidden behind a car park or something.
I just want to say we're wrapping a big thank you to everyone who's joined us tonight. Amazing. Thank you. And please, give us a follow. Please, get us 50. Get to 50.
And when this comes on YouTube, press the subscribe button as well.
And a thumbs up wouldn't go amiss either.
Yeah.
Go on, Rich. Your turn now.
Yeah, Rich. Again, thank you for joining us, Rich. I love having you around, Paul. Definitely great having you around. Thank you, and thanks to everyone who's listened and watched tonight. I hope that we've provided some level of entertainment for you. This will be on YouTube in a couple of days. If you want, we'll spend a few minutes and just say that Messi can go fuck himself, and I don't want him at the club.
Correct.
Anyone else?
Totally.
Yeah. The train is off the tracks and we're not getting on it. End of story.
It's amazing. As you know, I'm in Australia. It's amazing. As soon as 4 o'clock a.m. came, the phone call came in from Martin.
Lionel? Is that you,
Can I
Lionel?
just start?
Lionel?
That phone call was actually an accident. It was meant to be a text message to the group, not a phone
Let's
call.
not get into this now, guys.
Lionel!
It's a bit directly to me,
Lionel!
directly to me. Martin.
Lionel! Mr.
Lionel.
Messi! Number 10's been taken!
Yeah,
Can't
number
be
10's
10
taken.
anymore.
Piss off. You're not allowed in.
Lionel! Lionel, where are you?
Closed.
Lionel? Oh, he's gone. He's gone to France, boys. Sorry.
He's not
Good.
He's gone to France, or is he at Oldham Starbucks waiting for Martin?
No, listen. He's gone to Paris because they love us.
Let's go to Alain Canali live outside Paris Saint-Germain. Friends, thank you very much for joining us. I think you're all amazing. My Aki shirt's on its way. Did you see what the Villa fans did to Aki shirts? What are we on about now? Smack me.
Really shirts.
Do you see what the
Grealish
Villa
shirts.
fans did to Grealish shirts? Do you really want to see me doing the same to an Aki shirt, Paul? Right. Thank you very much.
And if you're going to do it anyway...
Wait. We've been told to wait. We've been told to wait. What we're waiting for?
What am I waiting on?
I don't know.
So question, is Aguero registered by Barca, or is he now a free agent like Messi?
I think it's hilarious. I think they're both...
He hasn't been registered yet.
Let's not do sentiments.
They're gonna have to go. Yeah, maybe we can get Aguero back for a season.
That's Army. Messi. We'll get Messi and the
Who do you think you are kidding, Mr. Hitler? If you think we're on the run. We'll get Dave McKaylis out of retirement. We'll get Messi and Aguero. We'll get Zabba back as well. Let's just. What's Van Sebastian Veron up to?
Can we get Tony Coulter now?
Yeah, we'll get Tony Coulter. We'll get Angel Di Maria. Any more
Yeah,
Argentinians
right,
that are looking for a game?
Listen, Ronnie, I've seen Sean Wright Phillips in company's testimonial. No thanks.
Bloody hell. Oh, my God. I saw Martin Petrov as well. He did one thing and then that was it. He was fucked for 89 more minutes.
I love sweep, but no thanks. Nigel de Jong, I'll have a little bit of an NDJ.
Let's get the gang back together. No, if you start mentioning Argentina, Alan will go on about the Falklands. Let's not. Right, ladies and gentlemen.
Tell me when I can say the bit. Tell me when I can throw the outro.
Right, you can do your outro now, Martin. I apologise.
Oh, go on, you say your bit and I'll say that bit at the end.
Oh, God.
What's my bit?
Good night from me, and it's good.
It's good night from me, and it's good night from him.
It's good night from him.
And if you're going to do it anyway, do it the Mancunian way. The only way we know how.
The Out Street Band's coming back. He's round the corner.
Lionel!
Where's Martin?
Lionel!
Lionel!
Good evening, good night, goodbye.